My new Blu-ray purchases have been stockpiling up, so you know what that means. It's time for a new Blu-ray update. I'm going to start out with the biggest release that I've found in recent memory, and that is Blood for Dracula. I still cannot believe that I found this at a used movie store. I found this at Disc Replay, and the price for it was great. And I think whoever brought this in also brought in a whole bunch of other Severin titles, because the other one that I picked up on that same day is the Wax Mask. So I haven't seen Blood for Dracula yet, but I have seen the Vinegar Syndrome release of Flesh for Frankenstein, and I love that movie. I thought that movie was fantastic. I'd not really heard anything about both of these movies, just that they're very significant cult movies, and they went out of print for a long period of time, and then there was a whole big thing of, when Severin announced that they were releasing this, and then when Vinegar Syndrome said that they were going to release Flesh for Frankenstein, it was a big deal. And like I said, I'm kind of saving this for Halloween time, so I'm kind of savoring the flavor for this movie. But for this movie, I have seen this. And when I bought this was a first-time watch for me. And I heard mixed things when it comes to this movie. I know that it, what was kind of late in the period for Giallo, and I was really curious about what that would be like, because I'm so used to watching Giallos from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and a little bit from the early 90s, but I think this was, 1997. I was really curious about it, and I don't know, it has some memorable scenes in it, especially the opening scene, which is really, really gnarly. It does have some odd effect, late 90s effects, if you know what I mean. And it's very jarring. But I really don't remember the middle portion of this movie, so I think that may be a bad sign that I can't really recall a lot of this movie. So I don't know. I think if you're a Giallo completionist, then, definitely get this, because it's a beautiful release. And then definitely, if you can get your hands on this, just for just the packaging on this alone is amazing. So those are my two Severin releases that I was able to get. Next up, I delved into the Walter Matthau filmography, and this is The Laughing Policeman. And this is the Kino Lorber Blu-ray release. And I really recently saw this for the first time. And this was part of, I guess you would say, almost like a 3-movie wave of when Walter Matthau kind of did these modern-day crime thrillers. There's The Taking of Pelham 123, Charlie Varick, and then this. And I've seen both of those movies, Charlie Varick and Taking of Pelham 123, and both of them I love. They're one of my favorite movies. And so this one was a big blind spot, and so I kind of just went in, I bought it, because it's not streaming anywhere. It's actually it's a little bit difficult to actually kind of see unless you buy this release. So I did, like I said, I decided to just, cross this off the list, because I've been wanting to see it for a while. And it's good. It's a very straightforward cop thriller. I would say out of those 3 that he did, this may be my least favorite, but it's still a fantastic movie. And actually, the 2 that stand out, because I love Walter Matthau, but the 2 people that stand out in this movie are Bruce Dern and especially Lou Gossett Jr. I believe it's Lou Gossett Jr. He's credited as Lou Gossett, so I don't know if, Lou Gossett is Lou Gossett Jr. But Lou Gossett is wonderful in this movie. And he has this line in it, and I feel like I've heard it before, but if you've seen the movie, then you definitely know the line. It's amazing. It's probably my favorite moment of this movie. So if you are in the mood to to kind of check off some of Walter Matthau's kind of more obscure movies, I would definitely check out The Laughing Policeman. So next up is Prime Cut, and this is another one that I ordered with The Laughing Policeman because again, it's not streaming anywhere, and I had heard a lot of great things about this, and I really wanted to see this, especially for Gene Hackman. And again, I've seen this very recently, and this the two best things I can say about this are one, Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman just chews up the scenery, and I really find this just so fascinating of where this movie came in his, when he was in his career. Because this came out a year after he won the Oscar for The French Connection. And it's just such a different type of just scenery chewing performance. I mean, I guess you could say, he chooses scenery in The French Connection. But this is like a pure villain role for him, and he's just fantastic in this movie. And the movie itself, like, it really goes for it in some areas. And the scenery of this movie is just, it's beautiful, because it takes place around Kansas City, and it involves the Chicago mob, and also mob ties in Kansas City. And I love the farm country setting of this. And yeah, it's an early role for Sissy Spacek. And if you're looking for a little known crime thriller from the 70s, I would definitely check out Prime Cut. So next up is actually what I got during the 50% off Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble. And the first one that I picked up is Polyester by John Waters. And I have been really wanting to delve into a lot of John Waters movies. So far, I've seen this, and I've also seen Pink Flamingos and Serial Mom, and all three of them I think are fantastic. And if you don't know about this release, it actually comes with a Odorama card, and this really is entertaining with the movie because numbers appear on the screen and then you're supposed to scratch it and everything. It's great. I love that they included this, and this was one of the big reasons why I wanted to purchase this on physical media, because I wanted to get that Odorama card and have that experience. And oh my gosh, Divine in this is amazing. I would say that the performance is even better than Pink Flamingos, and I don't know if that's a controversial opinion that Divine is that I think Divine is better in this than Pink Flamingos, but I just think Divine is wonderful in this movie. And yeah, just everybody just really commits to their performance. And yeah, I think this might be my favorite of John Waters' movies that I've seen so far. So I would really recommend picking this up at some point. So the next two on the list are the other two movies I picked up from the Criterion sale, and it's The Ascent and Death by Hanging. And both of these movies I haven't seen yet. I've heard a lot of great things about it, especially The Ascent. I think if a lot of people know about The Ascent, then you know that a lot of people have compared it to Come and See, which it's one of my favorite movies. And when I heard somebody describe this as kind of in the same vein of Come and See, and I really just wanted to see what this was like. And a little side note, the director of this was actually the wife of the director of Come and See, which is just another connection for them. And then Death by Hanging. I've heard a lot about. I've actually heard Edgar Wright talk about this movie, and that's kind of what spurred me on to wanting to watch it. And the premise of it sounds really interesting. So yeah, that is Death by Hanging and The Ascent. Next up on the list is Vanishing Point. I could not believe that I was able to find this at a used bookstore. And I have been wanting to see this movie forever. And this is probably one of the biggest discoveries I've made this year. This is the movie that influenced Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. And you can hear Quentin Tarantino talk about how much he loves this movie. And it's understandable. This movie is... it's billed as the ultimate car chase movie, and it really is not lying. But it is so much more than just a car movie or a car chase movie. It delves into so many different aspects of this character Kowalski. Not only his backstory, but just this. It has this very meditative vibe to it that I really did latch onto. And it's definitely, I feel that it might not be for everybody. You really do have to be in this sort of mood because it's a car chase movie. Don't get me wrong. But it's definitely has more of a, I guess, a laid back vibe to it. And if you're in that mood, then Vanishing Point will be an amazing experience for you. So if you haven't checked out Vanishing Point, it's an amazing movie, and I just cannot wait to go back and rewatch this movie, especially with the director commentary on this. Next up on the list is And Soon the Darkness, and I was able to find this when I found Vanishing Point, and this is another movie that is not streaming anywhere, and I've been wanting to see this for a long time, and I haven't seen this yet. Again, I'm kind of waiting for Halloween to get here, or the month of October, because I like doing this thing where during the whole month of October I watch nothing but horror movies, and a lot of horror movies that I haven't seen yet. So I'm kind of stockpiling my whole watch list for October, and this has definitely been on the top of that. I definitely heard about this movie. If any of you know this podcast called Pure Cinema Podcast, one of the co-hosts on there, Elric Kane, has recommended this movie a lot. And just based off of his description of this movie, I needed to see it. It sounds just like it will be a really, really wonderful first-time watch. And it seems like the perfect, I guess, 70s Hitchcockian thriller, but it's not Hitchcock. But yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. And so the last two that I got were actually from a library sale, and when you come across these, you can't pass them up. When you come across some Criterion collections, just out in the wild. And so I picked up McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Summertime by David Lean. And both of these I haven't seen yet. I've heard that McCabe and Mrs. Miller is just a masterpiece, and it's quite possibly Robert Altman's best movie. And I've seen a handful of his movies, and I really wanted to check this out, and I was really happy to see that I was able to find this on physical media. And then there's David Lean's Summertime, which I really haven't heard a whole lot about. When I think of David Lean, I think of the obvious ones like Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. And The Bridge on the River Kwai is one of my all-time favorite movies, so I'll be really curious to see a David Lean movie that I really am not sure what this is, but, so I don't know if it doesn't seem to be, I guess, in the vein of some of his more, I guess you would call them, epic in scope movies. I may be wrong. I'm not entirely sure. So I'll be very, if it's not that, I'll be very curious to see such a different type of movie from him, because I've been really wanting to delve into a lot more of his filmography aside from his, I guess, spanning epics. So yeah, that's Summertime and McCabe and Mrs. Miller. And yeah, that's it. I would love to hear about other Blu-ray purchases that you guys have made in the week, and like, especially that find when you find it in a used bookstore and you instantly grab it, and it's just like the best discovery possible. So I would love to hear about that. And yeah, that's it. All right, I'll see you later.